I think that throughout the years, I became more deliberate in terms of what I wanted to accomplish with my writing. So I started writing when I was very young. I was 13 when I wrote my first novel. And it took me a few years to work on the draft with my aunt and a teacher at school, learning the craft of editing, and I published it when I was 16. At first, it was mostly, let's see where my inspiration takes me. And I knew I wanted to write a lot of adventure books, and it was just a matter of waiting for the story to come to me and write those young adult novels that I enjoyed reading. So because I was really into horror and adventure, I enjoy reading those genres. I was writing in the same vein because I figured, hey, that's what young people do, and they did. So my books did very well. And I felt a little pressure at some point to keep producing fiction because I was well read. I mean, while we invent the wheel, I was starting to have a career, so I wasn't gonna change my path. But after a while, I grew a little disinterested in fiction because, yeah, it's fun and a lot of people are enjoying my work, but I didn't think that I was so special in the fiction realm that someone couldn't just read a similar book by another writer that was writing in the same genre. I didn't feel that I was making a difference. Yes, my stories were really anchored in Haiti, and there was a lot of action, and I was on point in terms of applying fiction rules that I didn't even know that I knew at that point. I was just going with instinct because I was an avid reader. I was applying what I thought were the rules of writing. But that passion waned after a while because I felt that writing was really a calling and I wasn't necessarily using it the way that I was supposed to. And disillusion came with leaving Haiti and making the United States my new home and meeting Dan Wakefield at FIU. He wrote a very famous book called New York in the 50s. I took a memoir class with him, and for the first time I started writing about my life, real stories about growing up in Haiti and in a difficult home environment. And I was surprised by the way people reacted to my writing. The fact that stories that I took for granted, well, what's the big deal? The fact that there was so much violence. Violence is part of my everyday life. The way people were reacting to it and the way it was affecting them and affecting their own writing, it really got me thinking about writing as a vocation and what I wanted to do with my writing. So I started writing my memoir, which became my thesis to graduate from FIU. And I think I really started thinking, my writing changed in the sense that when you write fiction, you can kind of assign intent to your characters. You're creating your characters from scratch. So as soon as it makes sense for the story, well, this is the way the character is going to be. But getting to try to understand what had happened to me in Haiti and having to take into account feelings that real people were experiencing and having to be able to walk in their shoes but also validate what I was feeling really affected the way I thought about writing in general. The fact that there's always more than one story, that in fact there's a multitude of stories around a same event. So I'll see it one way, my sister will see it one way, my mom will see it one way. And I think my writing became a little bit more focus on finding my truth without disrespecting other people's truths and taking in consideration more than just my point of view. So it matured in that way through the process of writing a memoir. And that leads us to Happy Okay, that collection of poems that I wrote about depression and anxiety and overcoming those issues, where I was even more deliberate in the message that I wanted to give. I wanted to share my experience, but I also wanted to include the point of view of others around me, because there's never, again, a single version of the same story. So talking from the point of view of Paloma, who is mostly expressing my side of the story, what it is to grow up with chronic depression, and also giving voice to Jose Armando, who represents every person who's ever dealt with someone who has depression.